to help with the costs of raising kids. And since the Canada Child Benefit gives more money to those who need it most, the financial impact on single mothers has been significant. Last year, nearly 90% of single moms receiving the Canada Child Benefit earned less than $60,000 a year and received about $9,000 in total benefits, tax-free. And let's be clear, helping those families has been a key driver of Canada's recent stellar economic growth. Companies should have a formal policy on gender diversity and make the recruitment of women candidates a priority. You may remember that we introduced our country's first gender-balanced cabinet in 2015. The usual suspects complained, but guess what? 2 years later, Chrystia Freeland and Miriam Monsef, who are here this week, along with their many female colleagues in cabinet, are serving the country with great distinction and have elevated the level of decision-making and debate for everyone in cabinet and in government. As corporate leaders, consider a gender-balanced board or gender-balanced project teams. Anytime we're looking for a new hire, we should be identifying women candidates at a rate equal to men. In Canada, when we look to fill appointments, we work to recruit people who reflect the true diversity of our country. Et nous devons rendre les comptes.
And we have to show what efforts we are carrying out in an open and transparent manner. In fact, we're on the point of adopting a law which will force companies under federal law to divulge information regarding their diversity policies. For example, that will include the proportion between men and women in their boards of directors and in their top management levels. What are the other points that could be improved? We have to understand that responsibility to look after the elderly and other persons in our families who may be ill often falls to women. So we need to have a program which helps these people to contribute the financial difficulties engendered by lack of work, and that is an option that we should envisage.
And we have to recognize that aspects of intersectionality are always at play and require special and explicit attention. Here's an example. In 2016, among women who were newly appointed to the boards of Fortune 500 companies, 77% were white. Race, religion, sexuality, socioeconomic status, those are just a few of the ways that women are even further discriminated against. And finally, here's the really big one. Me Too. Time's Up. The Women's March. These movements tell us that we need to have a critical discussion on women's rights, equality, and the power dynamics of gender. Sexual harassment, for example, in business and in government, is a systemic problem, and it is unacceptable. As leaders, we need to recognize and to act to show that truly time is up. We must each have a well-understood, established process in place to file allegations of workplace harassment. And when we receive those complaints, we must take them seriously. As women speak up, it is our responsibility to listen and, more importantly, to believe. Folks, treat these not as piecemeal alternatives to how things are currently run. Treat these examples as fundamental and essential shifts in the way we operate. As governments and as corporations, we were entrusted with a platform and a voice. Let's use them. Last year, with our neighbors in the US, we established the Canada-US Council for advancement of women entrepreneurs and business leaders. The Council just put out an important report, their first of 5, focused on supporting and growing women-owned businesses. We need to listen to them and implement it. Cette année, le Canada préside le G7.
Guiding the G7, the summit, which will take place in Charleroi, in Quebec. The advancement of women at the social, political and economic level is an important aspect of our presidency. Gender equality and a comparative analysis between the sexes is part of the issues and activities that we will be carrying out under our G7 presidency, including during the ministerial meetings and at the summit of leaders of the G7. And I'm very happy to be able to announce that Melinda Gates and Isabelle Hudon are going to be the co-chairs of the Advisory Council for Gender Equality of the G7. These two women are strong voices for the advancement of gender equality and for the empowerment of women and girls, and they will ensure that gender equality will remain a priority in all that we do during the G7 meetings this year.
I'm pleased to announce that the co-chairs for the G7 Gender Equality Advisory Council will be Melinda Gates and Isabelle Hudon. Both of these women are global leaders in the advancement of gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls, and so will ensure that gender equality is a priority throughout everything the G7 does this year. Canada will also 2018 will also see Canada hosting Fortune's Most Powerful Women International Summit, and 2019 will bring the Women Deliver Conference to Vancouver, the world's largest gathering on health, rights, and well-being of women and girls. So those are just a few examples of what we're doing to draw regular and frequent attention to the untapped potential of women and girls around the world. It's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing effort to convene, to challenge, and to push boundaries. But that's not to say we've got it all figured out. In Canada, we need more women in politics, more women on corporate boards, and more women in STEM. And that's, of course, just the tip of the iceberg. So, in reflecting on this, let me ask you, what are your challenges? And more importantly, what are you doing to address them? Ladies and gentlemen, the hiring, promotion, and retention of women is something we can make happen today, right now. More women in leadership positions won't just grow our economy, create jobs, and strengthen our communities. It'll also lead to innovation and change in the workplace. Innovation and change that workers desperately need. The unrest that we see around the world is palpable, and it isn't going away. These are uncertain times. We have a responsibility to address people's very real concerns. And the only way we'll get there is by listening to our workers and our citizens, and we will create solutions that will actually stick. The people in this room are immensely privileged. We owe it to society to use this privilege for good. We should ask ourselves, do we want to live in a world where the wealthy hide in their gated enclaves while those around them struggle? Or do we want to help create a world grounded in the notion of fairness? Because right now, we are in real danger of leaving to our kids a world that is less fair than the one we inherited from our parents. And I know we can do so much better. Progress of any kind takes hard work. But by thinking big and working together, we will build a better world. Merci beaucoup.